Okay. So for those of you who were here last week, or those of you who weren't, we reviewed all the photos from the trip in Yellowstone, and we had a professional. I thought she did a great job. But tonight, we've got quite a few submissions from other members, and we're going to do this as a group. So I'm not going to pretend to be as good as Chris Richmond, but I thought what we would do is we would start out. I'll make my comment, and then maybe the group, and then have the person who took the photo give their comments on what they were hoping to achieve, or any other comments they have about the photography. Anyhow, okay, so let's get started. So can everybody see my Lightroom window?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Oh, nice.
Sue said she has to bail, so I think we'll go sort of out of order here, but we'll start with one of hers. Let's see. Okay. I think you even mentioned this one a while ago, Sue.
Right.
So the first thing I thought when I looked at this, the color's wonderful. Everything's beautifully in focus, and it has some nice layers. There's a foreground, a midground, and a distance. And my one negative was there's so many structures to look at. Again, just to what you were talking about earlier, what is the subject here? And so I'll just play around with it for a second, because there's this thing about the rule of odds, having odd number. And so I think theoretically you do have an odd number in here. There's 3 buildings here, and then there's 5, 6, 7. But my one thought was, let's see. Let me hang on.
Yeah, never mind that.
Yeah, oops, back to the. Where's my?
On the right, upper right.
Upper right now, there you go.
I don't know. It's like across it.
There, I just want to get,
Just
out of the way. There we-
I think you can just yeah, there it goes.
Okay. So my thought was, what if you had done this? It's almost like there's 2 photographs here. Or even that.
Yeah, or from the left.
And I can make this full screen for those who.
Yeah, and to me, or eliminate the building on the left side.
Yeah.
That was my
Yeah.
first thought, eliminating the building on the left.
We go here.
I'd get rid of the silo things on the right.
All right, I don't know if y'all heard that. Tim was suggesting.
I like those silos.
Okay.
Different strokes.
Yep. I mean, that's the right answer, but that was my first thoughts. I know, Sue, what were your thoughts on that?
There were actually even more buildings in there. Yeah, so I thought I had pared it down, and I appreciate those comments. Obviously, to me, the most interesting building is that barn, with the curved roof on top of it. So I wouldn't want to do anything to eliminate that. And I think either way, cutting off that one on the left or the 2 silos. I guess I'm more inclined to like getting rid of the one on the left, because silos are just a part of, yeah.
Just go to the edge of that building on the left, David. Just, yeah.
No, I
Because-
think that tree is a problem then, the tall tree.
Oh, it
by
is.
itself.
Yeah, let's take that out.
But I want to give that barn plenty of room. And your eye follows the roof line of the barn into the rest of the photograph.
Ooh, fun. much better.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and yeah, and I think it reads left to right, even though, I did a lot of flipping on these when I first looked at them, so.
I love Ms. Richmond.
Yeah.
She doesn't like anything from left to right.
Who doesn't?
Oh, we were talking about, the comment was Chris Richmond, she doesn't like anything reading from right to left.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm finding. The eye tends to travel left to right. It's some neurological phenomenon, I guess.
Well, only to us in the Western Hemisphere.
Well, yeah, exactly.
All right, so we'll do this other one of Sue's here. So, this one, I think the color is really beautiful. And my first thought on this, just speaking of, about what we were just talking about, is, what if we did do it this way? And I thought it looked a little better, but then I was gonna go a step farther and just cut off a little of this. And that was my thoughts. And I wish there was a little bit more
Yes, Scott.
room above the mountains,
Yeah,
but, I don't know. Again,
And I don't know, Sue, if there had been any way to get more of the river
Yeah.
in, it's kind of cut off there on the right, on the edge, whichever edge it is now.
Yeah,
But I don't know
it's
if you could have gotten out there short of wading through it.
right. And it is cropped down quite a bit. Because it was a dead sky, I was trying to figure out where to pull it down on top of the mountain range, and somehow between, the trees and the mountains.
mm,
No.
no,
Yeah, I think if you just given like a tiny bit more on the top, not
Okay.
much, just a little bit more though.
Okay.
Just so that thing's not almost touching the edge of the photo.
Okay.
I agree with Tim too, that if you had been able to do it, having more of the stream there, so the whole, maybe the width of it was leading you into the image, it could be a little nicer.
Yeah.
But maybe you
And
could,
part of it for me is always when you start, because there was more river in there, when you start taking some out, it's like, where do you stop? So when you're looking down there on the lower right, there was more water, but it's where you crop it, that it just doesn't look funky. But based on your comments, it might have been worth it to have had more of the river in it. Although obviously the colors to me were the real focal point.
oh yeah.
yeah. Everything's nice and sharp, so.
Thank you. This is fun.
No, it's a nice image. I mean, it really is. And that fog in there is a real nice touch.
Thank
The
you.
mist.
All right, there's one more of Sue's here. Okay, I think this is it. So this one, is again, my first thought, I like the left to the right, and we have several lone tree images in this group, and I tend to take those myself, but maybe if you could have just pulled back a little bit. Because again, it seems a little crowded on the top and the bottom, so you don't get quite the sense of how alone it is, but that was my thoughts. And
So
what does
you would
anybody-
have, because I cropped this again, maybe put more in there. I mean, that was a wild day. There was a ground blizzard. This was over in Idaho. And I wasn't sure I was gonna get out of there. By the time I'd bucked another drift, I thought, don't go any farther down this road. But it was, to me, a really interesting atmosphere. And then just that lone, it looks like one group of aspen there. But it sounds like you would have said maybe put even more on the left or more
No,
on
I
both
mean-
sides.
A little more, just pull back from it if you had,
Foreground. in
foreground and also some above the tree a little.
Okay, okay.
The foreground for me would be more important.
Yeah. Did you hear what John said?
What did you say, John?
I said that for me, it would be even more attractive if I could see a little bit more of the foreground.
Okay, even though it's nothing but white.
A little bit,
Okay,
Yeah, because then you could see that it's really blowing, get the effect of the weather.
okay.
And
Thank you. Yeah,
just,
thank you.
I
everyone.
know that you're not gonna like this, but I'd put that tree in the middle.
So,
I'd cut some of the left off and just put that tree dead center, cause that's really your focal point, and the left is kind of dead space.
I'd be tend to make it a vertical.
Or make it a vertical, well, yeah, or a square.
If there was enough foreground and,
yeah,
I mean, yeah, vertical image could be, a portrait could be a good way to do it, if there's enough image to do that with.
yeah, that might not work,
There's not enough foreground.
yeah.
no, but, let's see.
But a little more foreground, you could turn it into a vertical image,
Okay,
maybe.
Yeah, I think you either need to go in or go out a little.
okay. Thank
But
you.
it's a nice capture, and I like the snow blowing there. Seeing that like that is really neat. It adds a lot to it.
All right.
As I said, I could have still been there. And there were cars off the road all over the place, getting back. Ooh. Okay, thanks.
All right. Okay, well, let's go back into the start here. That way I won't get lost. This one's from John. And I gotta say, I found this image really interesting and hard to put my finger on. So I tried a bunch of different things. So my first thought, I kept going to this rock over and over. And then I thought, maybe what I'm doing is, it's two different images. And I know the tree's still over there.
Or you can get rid of it.
Yeah, but you get rid of it easily. But that was one thought. And
So it
you
becomes
can even
kind
do
of a
that to the
abstract.
bottom. So, yeah, just hear what the rest of the group has to say, and then we'll ask John where he was going with this, because, yeah, again, I thought there was two images here, but also the lines were really interesting. And so while I'm talking here, I'll just do this. I
I'm
did this-
wondering how it
I-
would look in black and white.
Well, okay, we'll do that in just a second, but I thought if I flipped it, is it stronger with all of these lines going left to right instead of right to left?
No, I don't
No.
think so.
No, you don't think so? Okay.
Just because that one rock, the rocks kind of go from left to right, plus the top a little bit.
All right, and there it is in black and white.
No, that's in raw. I'm not seeing, oh, is that really black and white? Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, it's
So-
green.
fairly monochromatic image to start with.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, John, what were your thoughts on it?
Well, yeah, I like, it's a real late season. It's 4th of July, literally, that when I took that photo. It's way up Cascade Canyon. So you're looking at a lot of snow melt. And that's what the lines are in the snow, like that. And I just liked the symmetry of, the trees in the 3 trees in the foreground and 3 rocks in the background. They're like that, with the lines coming down at me. So it just really caught my eye.
This is Ray. What kind of bothers me is two things about the bottom part, and one is the rock behind the tree in the middle. Because it seems like kind of out of place in terms of rocks versus trees. And the other one is the little tree in front of the other tree on the right. It's like 3 trees, 3 rocks, but maybe getting rid of the rest if you wanted to keep the whole picture. I kind of like what David did if you had the 3 rocks up at the top, but that you were able to include more of the bottom without the trees where the lines start leading up to the rocks. Just a different crop.
Yeah. So I'm not quite sure what you're saying, Ray. You're
So
saying
bring
move
the,
up-
bring the bottom up, I'll tell, okay, right about there. Because you've got over on the left, that line behind the tree that's starting to come up, right? And leads up to the rock, or you can look from the left rock to the top rock to the other rock. I just get, because I like the lines, as you said, but I just get rid of the trees.
So you would have only the rocks.
For that particular picture, I'd have only the rocks. If you have the whole picture, I'd get rid of the bottom rock and get rid of the small tree on the right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
getting
this
rid
is
of that rock might be a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
Those
looks
are-
almost like a colored pencil drawing. I just
Mhm.
really like the subtlety.
It was a great overcast day.
Yeah.
Yeah, the texture and a really narrow color palette in there. Very intriguing.
Yeah, I found this, like I said, very interesting to kind of look at and how you would change anything, because I love all the lines in it.
Yeah, the lines are really what kind of draws you in and keeps you looking around.
Yeah. All right. Okay, here we go. And this is another one of John's. So he's got a nice, some early morning with the moon setting, but yeah, sitting right there. And you got really nice triangles here and here. And I didn't catch this when I first looked at it.
Yeah, I like the
Do you
birds.
see the geese?
Yeah,
Yeah,
And I don't know, I just really like this one. Again, it's one of those, maybe a little bit more room at the top. But I think the color and the sharpness of everything is beautiful, so. And, anyhow, anybody else's thoughts?
I think it's wonderful, very nice. And I think that it's kind of fun to discover the geese flying as you examine it more. That's a little extra surprise as you enjoy the photo.
That's really pretty. I'm wondering what would happen if you made that into a square. So the peak on the left is gone, but you have the moon and the geese. Yeah, let's see what that looks like. I like that too.
Yeah, because it makes a nice, here's the focal points.
Yeah,
You jump from the peak to the geese to the moon.
right. Really pretty.
Yeah, it's 2 nice shots either way, so.
I like the one that included the geese a little bit closer. This Tish.
The one where we made it a square.
yeah.
Yes. Yes. I think it tells a story more than this is a lovely image, but I have a trouble figuring out what he's trying to tell me in terms of the story.
So. That one,
Yes.
I like it even better with the moon not actually completely in the middle of the picture. I like this version better.
Yeah. Which,
What were your
David,
thoughts,
I
John?
was thinking, maybe one time we can talk about what is it, what is this, what does the story, what does it mean telling a story with your photograph? Sometime if we had a session on that, I think that might be interesting, just a suggestion.
All right. John, do you have any comments on it?
I was, I have a whole series of photos here, but I was really lucky. It was just happenstance to get the geese
Yeah.
in there. That's just one of those right spot, right time.
You were a lucky duck.
There's a goose.
Yes, a
No,
lucky goose.
Well, I think the goose are important. It gives you a sense of season as well.
All right. All right, here we have 3 swans. And this is another one of those, listening to Chris last week, I thought, well, let's just see what it looks like going the other way. So we'll do that to start with. Not
I
sure it
kind-
changes.
Yeah, I kind of like that. Because your eye is traveling across.
And my other thought is, every time you shoot, well, these bushes right here are a little distraction, which are easily removed.
Right.
And and again, when you're shooting wildlife, it is what you are. If you could tell that swan back there just to move up a little, it would have been perfect. But we all know that, oops, that doesn't work. Hang on a second.
I liked it when you flipped it horizontally,
Okay.
as your eye is, to me, following the flight on out of the photograph on the right, if you flip it.
Yeah. And I don't know, John, did you have any more on the left over here?
Not much.
Yeah. So it's pretty. Yeah.
Not much. It was shot with a fixed prime lens.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I could zoom in or out.
But everything's super sharp. I was looking at y'all can see those.
As a photographer, when we flip images, it's rather jarring to us at first because it's not what we took the photograph of. And I've decided that when I flip images, like you'd flip this one, I'm going to leave it and come back in a day and just look at the flipped image and see if I can kind of get rid of all the prejudice that I have about how I really took the photograph and look at it in a new way. I think you have to put a little time so that you can appreciate it flipped.
Yeah, and to me, so when you look at that and when it is flipped, you're following them on their flight on out. As I said, since the eye tends to move from left to right, then you're following them on out of the photograph when they're flying in the other direction. Folks, thanks so much. I need to leave now. I have this other meeting I have to go to. Boo-hoo. I feel like I'm being deprived. But anyway, thank you, everybody.
All right. So next up, we have one of Tim's images. And again, it's got a nice slow shutter speed shot of water moving. And I thought just the motion of the water, left to right. And then you basically had a leading line all the way from the upper left to the lower right. So, and, nice crisp, photograph everywhere except for the moving water, which, was intended with the slow shutter speed.
David,
what
what
other
if you What if you go ahead and swap it horizontally, just to be able,
Okay,
because in that way, the leading line goes from lower left and leads your eye up to the, one of the spots on the third almost.
that's an interesting thought, because when I was looking at it this way, I was thinking, this catches my eye first, and then I follow it down. So I don't know, what did everybody else think on that?
It looks good both ways to me.
Yeah,
It's very confusing to me because this is how it looks, so.
Yeah, I understand.
When you flip it over the other direction, it's just, that's not right.
Same.
That's what I was talking about, John. You need to make a copy and flip it and come back and look at it in a day or two.
yeah. No, well executed image though, and not much I would play with on it. I mean, it's.
Where's that at?
Redwoods National Park.
Okay.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time at this one spot. I could never really get the composition quite right because that top goes down and behind that rock. So
Yeah,
I could never figure a way to get it all in there at once.
get water all the way.
Yeah. But then I did crop this down. It was a horizontal and I turned it into a vertical just to get rid of all the extra stuff on each side.
Yeah.
I like the fact that you did not crop so much on the right-hand side that you didn't get the curvature of the shadow around the boulder.
Yeah. Yeah, I was mostly just trying to keep that line of water exiting on that bottom right-hand corner more than anything else. And then there is that down tree at the very top, which I couldn't figure out what to do with.
It's not distracting.
No, it's.
Yeah. Yeah, not the, I mean, this is a little potentially kind of heavy, but you know, this offsets it nicely, I think. And then you just follow it down.
Yes, and then your eye follows it up and out. So I don't mind the darkness. I think it balances the whiteness of the water.
These are really nice.
Yeah. Yeah, when you really pull that in and look at it up close, there's a lot of interesting color in some of the details. Yeah, so this one, my thoughts first off were, I mean, I love sunsets, but you know, maybe a little off the top, I don't know. And then the other thing I debated about this rock over here. So I don't know what everybody else's thoughts were, and I'll just show you what I played around with. You can move this in a little. But then I thought, well, maybe that's not. And other than that, that was my only two things I played with on it. I don't know if anybody else has any other ideas, but it's just such a nice shot to begin with. There's not a lot you would want to do with it.
I want to look at pulling it in even closer to that rock from the left. You know, if you're gonna take out that dark rock on the left.
I mean, and it's, you know,
Yeah,
this water goes in here nicely,
Yeah,
so
it does.
it's you say pull it even more?
Yeah, I mean, just, that's one of those things I might play with.
I feel like that rock on the left kind of grounds the photograph and
It's
to
a
the
lead.
shoreline.
Yeah,
And I agree that some of the top can be cropped off, but
That's a bigger wave on the right there. Them, or is that island out there?
No, it's just a bigger wave. There was a
Okay.
bunch of waves coming in. So, yeah, I guess I could take some off the top. I guess either way, the top doesn't bother me that much because it kind of fades out. So either way, but to me, I like the rock on the left because it
Yeah.
just kind of, it seems off balance otherwise with just that one out there.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot to do with that photograph. It's just such pretty colors and, you know, catching the beach in the foreground. So you got a nice foreground and a midground and a background, so. Yeah, really, really well done. This is the other one of Tim's, and I gotta say, I just didn't think about doing anything with this. I love the way it's framed by these two dark buildings. But then, man, the rainbow coming out just at that intersection, and then everything else well lit. I just really like this, and I couldn't think of anything I would do to it. Like I said, you know, you might crop in the right side up to this, but then it just kind of destroys what that looks like. So I don't know if this is a little distracting, but I didn't think so. If, you know, I mean, I don't know what anybody else thought. Like I said, this is my only one little thing I played with. And I decided I liked it better the other way. So, yeah, anybody else have a thought on that?
With the dark building on the right, sort of a counterpoint to the real tall one just to the left of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I did try cropping both those out and it looks weird.
yeah, it would, I mean, I think it's framed beautifully.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if there's any way, I know is you got a little perspective distortion. I mean, if this could be straight up and down, but
Yeah, that
I don't know. I just thought it was a really well done image, and I wouldn't mess with it very much. Anybody else have a thought? You know, all disappeared out there.
Yeah, other than trying to get rid of, if you wanted to, like I said, that I agree with you, David. My eye went to the left side and saw, oh, it looks like it's got a tilt.
Mhm.
Yeah,
The right side is straight, the middle is straight, but the left side is kind of leaning in.
this looks like it's leaning in just a hair.
Yeah.
You could easily correct that, so.
I'll have to look
What
at
tool
that.
would you use to correct that, David?
There's a couple of things, but I mean, right here in Lightroom, I'll just grab, where's the,
The transform panel.
yeah,
Right
hang on
there.
there, right there. I can't see over here in the dark. It's making the other one, but you can,
Oh, yeah, it makes, well,
okay, but hang on, stand by. Yeah, you'd have to be,
you might have to crop in on the right.
You don't have enough image.
I don't have enough image to do it that way, but there's a couple of other tools you could use to just straighten up that one side.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you can do it right in,
Isn't there a way you can drop like lines down?
yeah, let's see.
I don't ever use this, so I don't know.
Here, I just hit auto. How's that look?
That's
Oh,
okay.
hey, that looks good.
Yeah,
Oh, that did it. Amazing what AI is doing to our photography.
actually, that wasn't even an AI tool. That's been around Lightroom for a long time.
Really.
Yeah,
And I have not been aware of that in Lightroom. I thought you had to go into Photoshop. Great.
Yeah. I'll hit auto when I go home.
If you were printing that photograph, would you want to bring up the blacks? So that that underside of those porches wouldn't be blown out. Well, now it's not, but they were showing up blue earlier.
You mean up here in the upper left hand?
That was because you had the,
Clipping on.
Yeah,
showing where it's underexposed.
right.
You could probably bring it up. I don't know what it was. I don't know about printing.
Yeah, are you looking at that, Charlotte?
Yes, I'm looking at that.
Yeah.
And
That's-
so your blacks are underexposed. And
Yeah.
if
Yeah,
you
they're
were printing
fine.
it, would that be a problem? I guess it wouldn't, because black ink would be just on solid white paper, huh?
Yeah, and I mean, if you brought any detail out in those areas, it might distract you a little.
Right.
Um,
You wouldn't want, if you were printing the image, you wouldn't want any of the whites blown out, but if you're printing an image, it's okay to blow out the blacks, huh? Because it's the paper is going to be covered in black ink there, as opposed to,
Exposed.
Yeah,
You look at the histogram, it's
yeah,
not pegged out on the right anywhere.
it even works in black and white,
Not with the rainbow.
but not with the rainbow. I agree.
If you did in black and white, kept the rainbow color, that'd be interesting.
Yeah. Did y'all hear that? John suggesting print in black and white, but just keep the rainbow in color. All right. Let's see what's next. All right, we already did Sue's.
Those,
Yeah, I don't think, yeah, I don't think, whoops, sorry. Yeah, this one kind of struck me as, oh, shoot, sorry. What'd that do? Yeah, the moose, I mean, it's just like a portrait. And I mean, it's extremely sharp. Colors are great. It's got an interesting eye with seeing the white. And you know, it might be nice to have a little more space around it, but I don't know, what everybody else think?
I kind of toned down that grass in the foreground a little bit.
You mean just,
dim it, darken
Just dim it,
Oh,
darken
darken it.
it, or just go in and change the color slightly.
yeah,
Just kind of tone the color down a little bit.
yeah,
It's just I mean, moose are dark, so you gotta shoot it like that,
yeah,
to get it to come out. But you could probably, either throw a gradient on there or just go to the
Yeah.
color palette and just take that color and just tone the luminescence down a little bit.
Okay,
Even that actually
vignette
works
it a
pretty good.
little.
Yeah, I think I'd use a horizontal.
Yeah.
You pull up the gradient from the bottom and darken that a little bit.
And then that one is obviously one where maybe you'd want to flip it around, since everyone's into flipping photos now.
Not me so much.
Yeah,
I don't know if it makes any difference, not really.
no, no. I don't think Alfred's here, so we'll can't get his comments. Let's see. And this is one of his photos also. It looks like he had a little bit of an overcast day, but my very first thought was this part was distracting, so I just did a quick well, oops. and did that. And then you could select this whole part here and actually maybe bring up the colors a little more.
Or just select the horse.
Yeah,
And lighten it up a bit. That'd be easy to do, just hit their subject. Pretty good, anyway, yeah, that makes a big
Yeah.
difference.
I mean, anybody else have any thoughts on?
Yeah, you could tone down the lake behind it a tiny bit too, if you really
Yeah.
wanted to. I mean, it's fine the way it is, but you could definitely just tone that background down a little bit. And
Do you need
then,
all, do you need all that top stuff on the other side of the lake? Mm.
Locked up on me, stay there.
Good luck. I think it helps to enlarge the subject a little bit like that.
Yeah, John was saying this helps to make the horse larger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll move on. Okay, we already did Sue. Here we go. Ray's snarling wolf. Oops, all right. So I just thought the triangle between this guy's nose and his eyes, and then also his nose and his teeth. I mean, it's just super close up, but yeah, centering everything really worked, and really sharp photo. I assume you cropped it a little, Ray, but
Well, yeah, the original picture had the whole wolf in.
yeah.
And I tried different crops to try and focus on the face. We actually, at the Chapel Hill Club, we have a fill the frame theme coming up. So I thought I would see about filling the frame, and there's always an interesting thing about, there's no ears, because once you show the ears, then you also show the background.
Yeah,
So I was trying to think that how much of it could I show and what can I get away with? Because I thought the facial structure was very interesting, that it was kind of snarling at us.
yeah, I don't think there's much you need to do to that image at all.
yeah, I agree. I mean, anybody
Yeah.
else have a thought? It definitely, if you blew that up really large and put it on a wall, it would get people's attention walking in the room.
Yeah.
Wanted to do it in black and white and did just put his eyes in color.
I've done that, but I actually like the other tonalities, because I think we lose the gradations between the gray at the top and the kind of brownish thing at the bottom, and the stuff around his nose. I mean, I think that this is one where I don't think I would do black and white on.
Yeah,
I wonder if it would be interesting to choose his eyes and brighten them a little, lighten them a little bit.
Well, I already did that,
Oh,
so,
okay,
I mean, I don't know how far to push it
right.
without it
Because if you
starting.
push it too far, it looks artificial.
Yeah, I did think about making him red, but what's the point of that?
No, no, they already have kind of an orangey look to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
no, really well done. Like I said, I couldn't think of much to do with that one. I think you did everything right.
So this is my minimalistic picture of one of the trees on that trip to Yellowstone. Well, the wolf was in Yellowstone too.
And, you know, when I first looked at this, I guess, I think it was probably a design choice, but, you know, there's not much detail anywhere else. It almost looks like it's just freestanding in space.
Yeah, so that's
So-
why I was curious about whether it should be cropped in and centered. I mean, you talked about it with the other tree. I didn't try that. I was trying to give it space and put it on the third on the right.
It's not a real symmetrical tree. I love the shape of the tree, but since it's not real symmetrical, I like it off center. What do you, the rest of you think?
I like it off center also, and again, my only question is, it almost looks like it's free floating. I didn't know if there was any detail in any of the snow when you
There-
processed it.
There really wasn't. I mean, it was, I could pull some out, but I was trying to do it as more of like a pin, you know, drawing of a pin and stuff. You can see a little bit at the bottom where the trunk comes in. There were spots around because the snow was not even around the structure, but so that's why it's more of this minimalistic, you know, low key kind of thing. But do you think that the fact that it looks floating actually makes it less interesting?
I think it actually would work either way. It was just a question I had if there was any detail. And
There are some. I mean, I could go back and look at it and try and then compare one and the other. It's just one of those things where, as you've talked about, when you look at something long enough, you really need to walk away for a couple of days and come back.
Yeah, unless there was a lot of detail, I think it's fine the way it is. Because if you put too much detail in there, it's gonna kind of take away from that just stark reality of just a tree out there. So, and I would not center this one. I think Charlotte's right. Since it's not a cement, the tree actually is bending in towards the left-hand side.
Yeah.
So it kind of balances that dead space or the empty space.
You know, maybe if there could be just a little texture around the base of the tree, then everything else could be blank, but you'd feel just a little less like it was
Hmm.
floating
I'll look at that,
What-
Charlotte, and see what I can
around
do.
it. Mhm.
oh, here's another one of Ray's. And I love the way, you know, the lines just follow right up to the trees and then follow up here to the sky. I don't know if you had more, if you crop this in or not. You know, you might move it a little bit to the right and might, but then again,
To the
I
left,
think
you
it works
mean?
just the way it is. And then,
Would
go ahead.
Sorry, David, were you saying add a little bit more to the left?
yeah, and I don't know, I would have to just see the what you had over here on the left. But I think it really works the way it is. And my one other thought was, what about that? I don't know what everybody else thinks.
I kind of like the clouds. I mean, for me personally, but you could maybe take a little bit off the top. But I like that it's leading up into the sky because those clouds kind of have some nice texture to them.
I don't think I'd cut it from the top. You've got the third, sort of the third and the third. You know, the foreground and the midground and then the sky. It's pretty well balanced.
Do you hear that right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I liked it the way it was. I was, you know, just playing around with a few different things. But, you got a lot of images there.
Yeah, there's a lot of different shapes and
Yeah, I
structures
mean,
that go with it.
you could, do that one image several different ways.
Yeah. But again, I think what was pointed with this particular one, rather than partitioning it, was everything was in thirds, and I did like the line coming up from the bottom, so that was the point of that. And if you had that, then you kind of had to have the rest to balance it out.
Ray, you could Photoshop yourself in here very small.
I could.
All right. This is another one of Alfred's images. And I had an initial thought about this one. And then when I looked at the title, I went, what's he talking about? So I'm gonna let you know, there's a hawk here in the tree.
Uh-huh.
And once I saw the hawk, I was just wondering if, to make it more about the hawk, if you would, squeeze it in like that, maybe you would then see him and still get the idea that he's out here hunting in a very barren landscape.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that was my thought on this. Because otherwise, I thought it was oops, sorry. And there's the original, but yeah, I just didn't notice the hawk when I first looked at it, and I thought, well, what's he trying to? Am I supposed to focus on that group of trees or this down here? And then it's like, oh, it's part of the image is the bird. So I don't know. What are y'all's thoughts?
There is a different image as you were cropping it in like that. If you did that,
Yeah,
I think it'd be easy to get rid of that bush in the lower left.
yeah,
Because when you crop it in, you end up with some of it, or you can end up with some of it. It'd be easy to get rid of. I'd want more foreground below the tree though.
Hmm. But
Personally.
maybe not as much on the right.
wait, you say take some off the right?
Yeah, take some off
But
the
but I
right.
agree with going
And
down
then
on the
let's-
bottom, include the
foreground,
structures, yeah,
Pull it back down like that.
Yeah,
And then be easy to get rid of the bush on the
Yeah.
left.
Yeah, clone that out or
yeah.
maybe not so much on the top either.
yeah.
How much room do you need above it to, fit in?
Yeah, and my one thought was at, on the original image, you just don't see the bird immediately. Just
No,
because
so
of-
if the purpose is the bird, then I think you do have to crop in. If the purpose is not the bird, but just the various structures in a minimalistic picture, then I'd still take off some of the top, but I'd leave the rest.
And a vertical one, David,
uh,
with the trees on
oh,
sort of the
okay.
left.
you mean like pop
Offset.
it in here?
Yes, but slide the whole thing to the right. Or other way, sorry.
Oh,
that way.
this way?
Yeah, then pull some off the top. And I'd probably clone out or
Yeah,
AI out the thing on the upper right and the bush there.
yeah,
Yeah, I agree. I like
At
that.
least with there, now you see the bird.
yeah,
In the original one,
yeah.
unless I really stopped to look at it, I wouldn't have noticed that bird.
Oh, I didn't notice it, then I noticed his name. He
Yeah.
called it Slim Pickens, and I went, what's he talking about? Is there something I'm missing? And it's, there he is, he's right there.
Yeah.
So,
Nice winter shot though.
yeah. Okay, then we got
Before
Charlotte.
we look at all these photographs, I just want to say that these are photographs that I took when I went to Patagonia in September. And you know how when you first go to a location, you want to photograph everything
Mm.
and you include way too much. And so that's why I chose these photographs, because I think they need to be slimmed down. Help.
The individual photographs or?
Pardon?
I say you meant each individual photograph needs to be slimmed down. Is that
Well,
what
I
you're
mean,
saying?
like this is a paragraph probably instead of a sentence.
Okay. Well, my first thoughts when I looked at this, Charlotte, was, I mean, it's a beautiful image. And you got this foreground, midground, you got the sky. And, you know, I love looking at it. But you've got a couple of images in here because,
Right.
you know, if you want to focus on this, you know, the first thing I did was just like, well, maybe I'd take off part of this. And, you know, where to stop
Already
is,
looking better.
so, you know, and you could take off some more. Although this kind of leaves it more over here on this third,
Right.
but the
How much
colors
of
in
the
the,
foreground would you include?
You need the foreground.
yeah, I kind of think the foreground helps, but I mean, again, what's everybody else's thoughts here?
I think you need all of that.
Yeah, I don't, aside from what David did, I wouldn't do too much to this, to be honest with you. Cause I like that cloud on the left-hand side. And I think just from being there, I think you need that foreground. That's, I like the foreground, you know,
Yeah. Yep.
this kind of works too, but I think the foreground's kind of, is really kind of helpful.
Yeah, unless you're gonna crop way in and, you know, the mountains on the right, no cloud on the left. That's a totally different image.
Yeah, I think you can make a couple of different images out of it, Charlotte.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Grab that lower left corner and pull it up. Yeah, keep going. I mean,
where to?
somewhere like that, I mean, then you really just focus, you still have some foregrounds, a different foreground. You still got clouds that are lit up, now you really, the peaks are this, you know, the main focus on this one, that's just another way to do it.
Right.
And you could do it offset like that, that'd be a
Yeah.
little better.
Yeah, you got a lot to work with there. Like I said, I think you could make 2 or 3 different images. But yeah, the color, I don't know if everybody sees it, but it's wonderfully sharp and the colors are gorgeous. The exposure is great.
Well, I had to go see if those mountains were more spectacular than the Tetons, and I'm afraid they are.
Yes, they are.
They sure
But
look like photos.
Charlotte, they're a little harder to get to though.
Oh, they sure are. Yeah.
Well, yeah. How was the wind when you were down there?
Terrible, terrible.
There's clouds, there's
Yeah.
wind.
Yeah,
It's always windy.
everybody I've talked to who's been there says it's always windy.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yes. A lot of my dawn photographs have lenticular clouds in them. And we were stranded when we were traveling from the Argentinian side of Patagonia to the Chilean side. It's, you know, a good 6-7 hour drive. We got stranded at a truck stop for 5.5 hours because the police closed the highway because of the high winds.
Oh, wow.
And the next week, our local guide, sent us a video of his next group, and they were sitting in the bus, you know, small bus like we had, and the winds were so bad that it blew sand, and the 5 of the bus windows broke. We didn't know
Wow.
that would happen, or we would have been more frightened, but yeah, the winds are phenomenal.
Oh, this is Charlotte's next image. And yeah, I mean, this is just spectacular. And I don't know, I mean, again, you've got a nice foreground, so it gives you a real depth and clouds and the sky. And this thing's really nicely centered with your eye just follows back and forth along these lines here.
Yeah, I wondered if this, people who know the area wouldn't want it flipped, but I wondered if Chris would want to flip it.
Well,
so that
we'll
the
take
eye
a
went
look.
on-
We lost to flip everything.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it makes any difference.
Yeah, I don't know. That one, I just
Well,
think,
It's
Charlotte,
better
did
to keep it the way it was.
was this a cropped image?
Yes,
Do you have more foreground?
I'm not sure. But
I would personally like
probably
to see,
do.
I'd
more
like to see it from foreground
Okay,
down at the bottom there.
okay,
That, I mean, that would do a bit for me, but
yeah.
all right.
Yeah, I mean, your exposure's spot on, sharp. Yeah, a little foreground with a, what do they call them, guanacos?
Yeah, or a Puma.
I can put a
just-
guanaco on the top of that foreground.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the clouds are spectacular
yeah,
Mhm.
around the peaks.
yeah, I don't think there's much you do with that one, I don't know. Any other thoughts on it?
Mhm.
Just about the foreground for me, if there is any. That works
No,
too.
I wouldn't crop that.
He doesn't like it, but I think that works too. I mean, you got a couple of photos there.
Yeah. All righty.
And this one is one of those lenticular clouds that
Oh.
that was just amazing to us. And I just wondered if putting the horse in it had any point at all, or
Mm,
it's supposed to be about the cloud.
Well, okay, I'm gonna make a weird reference here. When I first saw this, I don't know if any of y'all, when y'all were children, but there was a movie called Thunderhead, Son of Flicker. So, unfortunately, but anyhow, I thought, oh, you got a thunderhead and a horse, so anyhow.
Yeah,
But-
I kind of like the horse in it.
Yeah, I do too.
It
And,
kind of adds a little,
but, I mean, if we, again, I think you got a couple of photos here. But.
Pull the ground just a little bit more, but do that again, but make a little more foreground
Okay, hang on, you wanna do,
like that. If you're gonna do that.
yeah, if you were gonna just do the clouds. And my only other thought was, let's see, if I invert this. I don't know if you can make
Oh, mhm.
just the foreground or maybe just bring the horse out a little.
Mhm. I did a little of that, but maybe more.
It's already lit up.
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, you definitely see the horse there, so.
yeah,
I think if you did more, it'd start to look pretty artificial.
yeah, you have to be careful with it. It'll look like you manipulated it.
Yeah, and I think I see some halos around the horse.
Yeah, I think I did a clumsy job of lightening around the horse. I need to
So
go
that's the
back
only
and
thing.
fix it.
I think that would help if you, like between the legs there and then underneath.
Right,
the-
and under
Yeah.
under the head,
Yep.
Yeah, here and here.
there,
right.
and yeah. I was heavy-handed, wasn't I? Okay,
Yeah, well. You do the fine tuning later, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but yeah, really fascinating cloud structure.
takes a lot of wind to make that kind of cloud.
Yeah,
Big peaks off to the right. The wind's coming off of? They're
Well,
usually, they're usually
yes,
behind the
I think that's right. I think, yeah.
I think that's it, folks. Yeah, it's some
That's
really nice
great.
images here. Yeah. A couple of the people who submitted aren't in the meeting, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully we recorded it and they can look at it later.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Charlotte, my only one other suggestion with your second image is maybe adjust that blue in the sky a little bit, but that could be the monitor here too, so take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, it looks a lot different. That monitor looks
Very off.
yeah.
Okay, never mind.
You could even do a crop in on that peak. Be
Yeah.
pretty interesting. The vertical one, just on the, say from about that snow line up. So I mean, crop it way in the, yeah, maybe a little lower.
Right here.
Yeah, just a little. See what that looks like.
That's an ice cap on the top of that mountain. And the first climbers that climbed that peak only went to where the ice cap started. And they got in trouble with all the mountain climbers saying, well, you didn't go to the peak. You had to climb up on the ice cap to the top of the ice cap to have completely climbed that mountain. And the climbers took a gasoline generator up there. It's still hanging up there on the face. And they used the generator to put are they pitons in?
Mhm.
They drove pitons.
Yeah. And yeah. And then when they came back down, they just left the generator hanging on the mountainside.
Hmm. Well, thanks, everybody. I got to sign off. It's a little bit later here.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Goodbye,
Ray.
Ray.
Bye, Charlotte. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Charlotte, great pictures.
Great trip.
What time of the year were you there, Charlotte?
I was there this last September, so it was springtime.
Is that the time to go?
Well, I don't know.
I was there in March.
Fall
Yeah.
might be really nice too. Maybe the winds aren't as bad in the spring. I just don't know. My daughter, who never likes to travel, one day said, I want to go to Patagonia. And Patagonia had been on my bucket list for 30 years. And so I found a photography trip. She's not a photographer, but it worked out okay. And I found a photography trip that was in September. So I don't know whether the leader chose the best time or whether springtime's good, or I don't know. I think that there's more snow on the mountains in the springtime, so they're more spectacular looking. But I don't know.
I think Tim said you were
I
there.
was there in March, and that was pretty good too. Yeah,
That would be fall.
yeah, late summer, fall. It's not really ever summer there.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
And, beautiful images.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, all right. So let everybody go. Have a good evening. And next month, we're gonna do printing. And then we're gonna do the following month, printing at CJ's. So if you want to get a free print from the club, this is your opportunity the next 2 months. All right, we'll let everybody go.
All right. I'm gonna miss May. I'm gonna be on the